Good morning, children. Today in English in class 11, we take up the chapter The Portrait of a Lady. Till now we have come to know that they have shifted to the city, and now he has joined an English school and he goes by bus. So the grandmother is not able to accompany him to the school every day, and yet she took interest in his studies, and she would question him what he was taught each day. I would tell her English words and little things of Western science and learning, the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, and the world being round. That meant that he was taught various subjects, and he would explain that to his grandmother, let her know that these were the things and topics and subjects that he was taught. This made her unhappy. Now, unhappy means sad. It was not the fact that he was going to the school, it was not the fact that he was being educated, but she was unhappy because there was mention of all numerous subjects, but there was no mention about any teaching about God. She felt religious teaching was necessary, and that was not ever mentioned, which obviously meant that they were not taught about this in the city school. She could not help me with my lessons because he attended an English school now. She did not believe in the things that they taught at the English school and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures. Now, why she was unhappy? That is, she did not believe, in other words, one can say that she did not agree with the education that he received in the city school and was distressed, means it caused her extreme anxiety or pain, and for the simple reason that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures. That is, there was no religious teaching imparted here in the city. One day I announced that we were being given music lessons, and one day when he returned and he was questioned by his grandmother, he responded that they were given music lessons at school, that they were taught music at school. She was very disturbed. She became all the more upset and disturbed. To her, music had lurid associations. That is, according to her or in her opinion, lurid means indecent. So, according to her, she was very conservative. She was old and conservative, also traditional. And in her opinion, music was not to be indulged in by people from respectable families. It was the monopoly of harlots and beggars, and not meant for gentle folk. Monopoly would mean, if we talk in economic terms, it is that when a person or an organization owns and controls the supply of a product. So that is monopoly. But over here in this context, it could mean that the monopoly of harlots, that means it was only and solely meant for harlots and beggars. Beggars who beg and survive, and not meant for gentle folk. That means he came from a respectable family, and she did not really approve of that. She said nothing, but her silence meant disapproval. Now, this was her way of responding to the situation. She said nothing, she did not comment, she did not criticize at all, but the fact was that she disagreed. She felt that this was wrong, and her silence meant disapproval. That meant the very fact that she did not utter a word, she did not comment about that, she did not express her opinion, it automatically meant and indicated that she disapproved, that she did not agree with the music lessons that he was being given at school. She rarely talked to me after that. And after that, there was hardly any interaction between the two, that is the grandmother and the author. When I went up to university, now naturally as time went by, he went to university, I was given a room of my own. So he got a separate room. The common link of friendship was snapped. Till now they both shared the same room, but now that link of friendship, that the thing which kept them together, that was snapped. That meant it was broken. That meant that he was given a separate room. My grandmother accepted her seclusion with resignation. Now this has been highlighted out here. We can see that my grandmother, he's talking about his grandmother, accept would mean when you agree to receive something or to do something. Her seclusion would mean, when she would not have any contact with anybody, in other words, that she was being separated. With resignation would mean that that she did not complain about it, she did not grumble about it at all. Normally we use resignation when we are writing, when you want to leave your workplace and you submit in writing, so that would be your resignation. Out here, so accepted her seclusion with resignation would imply that she accepted this also. That is, she knew that she had to accept the situation. She accepted it also, which is not something very pleasant, but it is inevitable. So she accepted that also in her stride, and she did not complain about it. She did not criticize or grumble or complain about any of it. So she accepted the fact that he was given a separate room, which meant that now she would be entirely all by herself. She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone, and after that, she hardly left her room. The entire day she spent in her own room, spinning the wheel and reciting prayers. From sunrise to sunset, she sat by her wheel spinning and reciting prayers. That means from sunrise to sunset would mean that from morning to the evening, she sat by her wheel, she sat and was engaged in spinning and reciting prayers. That is the way she occupied herself, that is the way she spent her time. Only in the afternoon, she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. And it was only her relaxation meant that in the afternoon for about half an hour she would come out in the veranda, break the bread into little bits, bread crumbs that is. Hundreds of little birds collected round her, and she says that the author says that only in the afternoon she came out for about half an hour in the veranda, and at that time, how did she engage herself? She broke the bread into little bits, or what we term them as breadcrumbs, and at that time hundreds of birds would collect around her and creating a veritable bedlam of chirpings. A bedlam, you can say a veritable, one can say that it is emphasized. Bedlam means confusion. What confusion here is indicated? That is the loud chirping of hundreds of birds together. That obviously created a lot of noise and created a lot of confusion of chirpings, that is the chirping of the birds. So it is emphasized that there was so much of confusion over there due to the loud chirping and noise created by the birds collected over there around the grandmother. Some came and perched on her legs. That means some took the liberty of perching, that is coming and resting on her legs, others on her shoulders, which meant that they had come to understand that she was a very loving, caring and a kind person. She did not mind that at all. Rather, she enjoyed the company of these birds. Some even sat on her head. She smiled but never shooed them away. That meant they took the liberty of coming and perching on her legs or her shoulders or even on her head, and she was so happy in their company. She smiled but never shooed them away. That means she did not mind having them taking that liberty. It used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. That means that was the most enjoyable time of the day for her. When I decided to go abroad for further studies, I was sure my grandmother would be upset. Now, with the passage of time, he desired to go abroad for further studies, and he felt that when he broke this news or when he gave this information to his grandmother, that she would be upset, she would be distressed. I would be away for 5 years. That meant that he had to go away for a period of 5 years. And at her age, one could never tell. At her age, one could never tell. That means it was uncertain. What was uncertain? That life is uncertain for everybody as a matter of fact. But in her case, because she was old, so he felt that when he went away for 5 years, and he returned after that period, after the 5 years, he may not find her alive. So at her age, one could never tell. That means it was not sure, it was not certain that she would be alive when he returned after 5 years. But my grandmother could. That means she was so sure of herself and confident that she would survive, and she was alive. She was not even sentimental. She was not even sad at all. She came to leave me at the railway station but did not talk or show any emotion. That means she performed all her duties. She came to the station to see him off, but at that time also she had no time for expressing any feelings or express her opinion. Her lips moved in prayer. Why? So why she did not talk or show her expression? Because she was only involved in reciting her prayers. Her mind was lost in prayer. That lost in prayer means occupied, that she was reciting her prayers. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of her rosary. So she was engaged over there, standing at the platform. Her mind was busy and occupied in reciting prayers, and in her hand, her fingers were telling the beads of her rosary. That means reciting her prayers. Silently, she kissed my forehead. And when I left, I cherished the moist imprint. And silently, that before he left, she kissed him on the forehead and blessed him. And that particular moment, he says, I cherished means I valued it, I cherished it, I kept that in my mind. It lingered on in my mind as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us, assuming that he may never see her again after 5 years. So that is how he departed from there. Thank you.